Okay, good evening. I'm going to call the August 27th, 2026 regular meeting of the Naperville Park Board of Commissioners to order. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Marissa, can we have the roll call, please?
President Ruffing.
Here.
Vice President Anzier, absent. Commissioner Balakrishna, absent. Commissioner Jacks.
Here.
Commissioner Janner, absent. Commissioner Risvold.
Here.
Commissioner Thompson.
Here.
President Ruffing, I've been informed that Vice President Anzier and Commissioner Janner have requested to participate remotely due to business.
Move to allow remote meeting participation of Vice President Ansier and Commissioner Janner per Section 7 of the Open Meetings Act.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Thompson.
Yes.
Commissioner Risvold.
Yes.
Commissioner Jacks.
Yes.
President Ruffing.
Yes. Commissioner Janner and Vice President Ansier, can you hear us okay?
Yes, thank you.
Great. Is she not here? Okay, thanks for letting us know. Okay, do we have any matters from the public?
We do not.
All right, well, will you please read the consent agenda?
Item 3.1, approve August 13, 2026 regular meeting minutes. 3.2, approve August 13, 2026 executive session closed meeting minutes. 3.3, accept the base bid of Aries Inc. in the amount of $118,800 as the lowest responsive and responsible bid, and to award the contract for the Centennial Beach Pump House Plumbing Improvements Project, and to authorize staff to carry a further 5% contingency for a total authorized expenditure for the project in an amount not to exceed $124,740. 3.4, approve renewal of the 2027 recycling dumpster services contract with Groot Industries, Inc. in the estimated value of $52,351. 3.5, approve the Humana Health Plan, Inc. dental PPO plan as the dental insurance plan offering for the 2027 coverage year. 3.6, reject all bids for the Willowway Commons Trail guardrails replacement project.
Thank you. And should any items be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately? Seeing none.
Move to accept consent agenda items 3.1 through 3.6.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Thompson.
Yes.
Commissioner Risvold.
Yes.
Commissioner Jacks.
Yes.
Commissioner Janner.
Yes,
President Ruffing.
Yes.
Move to approve consent agenda items 3.1 through 3.6.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Thank you. All right. No unfinished business, so we'll move on to new business, beginning with 5.1, the 2026 bond issuance.
Okay. All right, good evening. At the Finance Committee meeting held earlier today, prior to this meeting, the district's municipal advisor, Anthony Maselli from Spear Financial, presented an overview of the recommended approach to the 2026 bond issuance, which covers 3 bonding actions: $120 million in referendum general obligation bonds to fund the key community initiatives approved in the March 17th referendum proposal, a $5 million in limited general obligation bonds as planned in the 10-year capital funding plan to support the ongoing maintenance and improvement of existing facilities and amenities, and potentially refunding the Series 2018 B bonds if market conditions at the time of the sale create a debt service savings opportunity. The recommendation is to consolidate all 3 bonding actions into one issuance process to achieve efficiencies through one rating, utilizing the same official statement, and holding one bond sale. The referendum bonds would be a separate series from the limited bonds. So there would be 2 issues, Series 2026A for the referendum bonds and 2026B for the limited bonds, which will include the refunding bonds if there is an opportunity for savings. So during the referendum engagement process with the community, the district provided estimates of the referendum bonds impacting the tax bills payable in 2027. To meet this commitment, the bond sale and closing must occur by the end of February 2027. Based on project timing expectations, the district expects to be able to spend the $120 million of referendum bonds within the 3-year IRS requirement. So the recommendation is to complete the financing of the projects in a single issue. The proposed timeline targets a bond sale in October of 2026 because it will allow flexibility. If market conditions are not favorable at the time, the sale can be postponed and or resized, then issued before the February 2027 end date, with the hope of capturing market conditions that are more favorable. Now, municipal bonds can be sold publicly using 2 different methods: competitive sales or negotiated sales. SPEAR, as our municipal advisor, is tasked with completing an independent review of factors of the issuance and recommending a method of sale with the goal of producing the lowest interest cost to the district for each bond issue. They have recommended a negotiated sale because the issue is larger than most typical park district transactions. The municipal market has been volatile due to geopolitical events. This method of sale will provide the most flexibility to target an appropriate time and date for the sale and or to resize the issue if market conditions are not favorable. In addition, the chosen underwriting team will be able to pre-market the bonds to investors, building interest in purchasing the bonds, which will benefit the transaction given its size. SPEAR is coordinating a request for proposal to select an underwriting team. The responses for the RFP are due September 3rd, and then SPEAR is scheduled to discuss their recommendation with the board at the first meeting in September or on September 10th. The next steps. In the upcoming months, our team will be working with SPEAR Financial, Bond Counsel, who's Chapman and Cutler, the chosen underwriting team, and Dirk's team toward a successful bond issuance. The current timeline earmarks the rating call to take place the week of September 14th, the first reading of the bond parameters ordinance and the BINA public hearing at the second meeting in September, which is September 24th, and the second reading of the bond parameters ordinance at the first meeting in October 8th. The sale is earmarked to take place the week of October 12th, and that is subject to change based on market conditions. Do you have any questions for me or for our municipal advisor, Anthony Maselli, who is here today and ready to answer any questions that you may have?
Commissioner Janner, do you have any questions?
Not at this time, no, thank you.
Okay. I'm assuming we do not because we just deep dived this. That's not the right way to say that, but before. So I think we're good.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you again for being here tonight. Okay, moving on to 5.2, the security camera MOU.
I'll do a quick introduction here. So Naperville City Police recently contacted the Park District with an interest in establishing a memorandum of understanding, or MOU, between the Park District and the City of Naperville to access Park District security cameras. City Police are in the process of establishing similar MOUs with North Central College, School District 203, and School District 204. The MOU would allow City Police to access real-time video footage when responding to emergency situations at Park District facilities, such as an active shooter, bomb threat, fire alarm, armed intruder, burglary in process, fight in progress, or any other immediate threat to life, personal injury, property, or the safety of the building or its occupants. The MOU would also allow City Police to access the cameras in non-emergency situations when it is necessary for the city to access and use real-time footage and or video recordings from security cameras in relation to an incident occurring at or immediately adjacent to Park District property, such as missing juveniles, vehicular crashes, burglaries, or other criminal activity. Access to the security cameras would be limited to city personnel that are expressly authorized and designated to access them, and under the MOU, the city is required to provide a monthly audit log of the cameras accessed. A draft of the proposed MOU was included with the agenda for this meeting, and it was also discussed with the Parks and Recreation Committee on August 13th. Chief Aries with the Naperville City Police is here to answer any questions that the board may have, but the intent is to gather feedback from the board or discuss any questions and then bring the MOU to a future meeting for approval.
Great, thank you very much. Sure, go ahead, yeah. All right, who wants to kick off with question, or, I think the three of you were not here for the Parks and Rec, so if I would love for you three to start, because I
sure.
asked a lot of
When
questions.
George Orwell wrote this MOU, did you have a lawyer look at it? Because this waiver of constitutional rights paragraph is pretty concerning to me. I think a lot of the MOU language is vague and doesn't really protect our privacy rights. And I'm reminded of Benjamin Franklin, who said, anyone who's willing to sacrifice liberty for temporary safety deserves neither. I don't know why we're intent on creating a surveillance state in this town, but Will County's real intent on it with their flock cameras. This is a peregrine system that sells its data to third parties. That's what's going to be storing this computer generated data. They explicitly state they sell it for analytics purposes, AI training. I don't understand why this is necessary.
So, did I hear you right, George Orwell?
Say again?
I missed the beginning. Was that a George Orwell reference?
This is straight out of 1984.
Okay.
This is surveillance state type stuff. I don't understand the value. I don't understand why.
So I'll answer your question.
Now, my understanding is that the police would need a warrant to look at any third-party cameras. Is that correct?
No.
Okay. Under what circumstances now, absent this MOU, would the Naperville Police have access to Park District cameras, both external and internal?
So there have been numerous gatherings, we'll call them different rallies, things of that nature, where as we secure them, we've worked with the Park District. There's the Dandelion Fountain and other cameras that we have shared access with to monitor that real time to protect festivals, to protect rallies, to protect marches, so on and so forth.
So being granted access is different than being given unfettered access.
Correct.
So under what circumstances now, absent this MOU, do you or the Naperville Police have unfettered access to this camera data to surveil our citizens?
Okay, well, we don't surveil. So if there's some criminal act that happens in cooperation with your Park District Police, who we work extensively with, we would request video related to a criminal incident. If there was video related to a crash, we share data all the time, similar to the radio system we share with your police department, similar to the CAT RMS system we share with your police department. But what I would like to do is, you did ask a question, so I'd love to answer that for you. Both the city attorney and the Park District attorney reviewed this. They have worked within this agreement and come to what they were comfortable with in terms of legal terms. So I do know your attorney's here, so if you have questions, perhaps he could chime in as well.
Yeah, this is it's a request basis. The city does not have access to our cameras now. This was setting up the guardrails and parameters for how they would get access in real time, and then as they are accessing it, what guardrails or boundaries would be around the use of it. So that was the purpose of the MOU, was to put further expectations and guardrails around the city's access to our cameras. We do grant them access now. They don't get access without coming to us and asking for it. And we've used it extensively during, festivals like Last Fling and others to protect everybody. During any of our big events, we put persons up on scissor lifts. We put people on rooftops. We have eyes available to protect people during events, and if there is something going on and we need additional eyes, this is the tool to be used. So that was the intent of the draft and the parameters that are built into it.
And if I may
add, not full-time surveillance.
And if I may add, we absolutely will not have your cameras up on a screen monitoring them. The only time we will access them, and that's why I wanted to provide the monthly audit log to assure you this, that will be related to a police report and a police incident. So we will not be real-time monitoring. It would be, here's a police incident that occurs outside of the property. If there was a crash on the roadway, That was where we would go into the cameras. If we were looking to beat the police getting there, does it look like there's injuries? What kind of damage does it look to the cars? In which case, on the audit report, you would see, hey, X camera on the outside of a Park District building was accessed for this reason. The only time we would ever, and this is outlined in the MOU, ever access any interior cameras would be an in-progress event with threat to life. So what I would expect from you as you get the audit report, if there's not a clear explanation, and there will be, report number, incident type, there would be, I would anticipate there's potentially reports that'll come in blank because we're not going into your cameras at all. So this isn't, these are going to be live on a screen in any room in the police department. It would be incident occurs. If it meets the threshold, we can access them. We have also severely limited the access. I believe President Ruffing asked me about that last time, and it would be to the 2 analysts and the 2 detectives that would be working in the room.
And that's great to say in principle, but that's not what's in the MOU. The MOU says if the interior cameras are accessed in relation to an emergency situation, which as setting aside the fact that that's an ill-defined term, if the interior cameras are accessed in relation to an emergency situation, the city shall provide written notice to the Park District Executive Director or their designee as soon as reasonably practical thereafter. So after you've already done it, then as soon as you're able to, you'll let us know you did it. That's not the same thing. And going further, it says in non-emergency situations, it may become necessary for the city to access and use real-time footage and or video recordings from the security cameras in relation to an incident occurring at or immediately adjacent to Park District property, and then doesn't really define what non-emergency situations are. I think that the MOU is so broadly written that it lends itself to future abuse. And now, understanding, I respect you and the Naperville Police, and I think that it is an outstanding organization that is an exemplar to other police departments throughout the country. And I've said that to you privately, and I will say it publicly too. I think it stands alone, head and shoulders above so many others. My concern is not with what you will do. My concern is with the language of the MOU, what somebody who is not you, who 10 years from now, 20 years from now, looks at this MOU may do, because it is so ill-defined and it is so broadly written that it lends itself to abuses. And simply throwing in a line that says, but we'll do our best not to violate your constitutional rights, is exactly the type of thing that has so many people in this community and others upset about things like flock cameras and Axon and the constant collection of our biometric data. I'm also concerned this might violate Illinois' biometric laws, but that's for somebody else to handle, not me. I'm concerned about the language as it's written because it does lend itself to a broad interpretation that could be misinterpreted to the detriment of people in the district and people in the city. So while I appreciate the answer, I do think it would be important to go in and very specifically define these terms so that we know exactly what these situations are, and having access in an MOU, but then telling us after the fact that you did something, I don't think is sufficient.
Well, if I can respond on the definition of emergency, we've been unable in Illinois to do that. The COVID crisis proved that with the executive orders issued by the governor under his emergency powers, and people wanted to litigate the meaning of emergency, and there was no clear definition of what it is. It is what the people in charge that are trusted with the position to determine. So in this case, emergency is what law enforcement, our chief, and the chief of the city figure out as an emergency. We can't possibly list a grocery list of everything that would constitute an emergency. There are obvious choices, with all respect, an active shooter, a car crash into a facility, a fire. Those are obvious choices, but what kinds of things will become an emergency? You really have to, as the COVID cases said, you won't know it till it happens, and you've got to trust the people who have the power to use it in that sense. So if it's not a good faith emergency, litigation follows. If you think that that's violating a constitutional right, there is a giant penalty for it. I appreciate that the cameras have been abused. There are numerous stories about camera data being abused, and people are going to jail for it. So there is no perfect system. But in terms of trying to put some guards around the rail, we've tried to define emergency even in things like procurement. And it's been left to the decision of the policymakers as to whether or not it's an emergency. And when emergencies get litigated as, oh, that wasn't a real emergency, the defaults are around the policymakers making those decisions. And here, at some point, the chiefs that make the policy.
And I appreciate that, but the MOU, again, goes back to, and being a lawyer, I understand lawyers love to do this. You don't have to define emergency situations because you also grant them basically unfettered access in non-emergency situations. So it's just like anytime we want it, we can just define it as, well, this was an emergency. And then, well, in this situation, it wasn't an emergency, but we still needed it. And then we let you know later that we had it. And now here's an audit log for someone at staff to go look through to make sure we did it.
It's
right.
not unfettered access, with all due respect. They have to ask for permission to get it, and we have to grant it.
Then what's the purpose of the MOU? That's the system we have now.
That isn't the system we have now, at least not articulated in an agreement.
This agreement doesn't articulate that. This agreement says that they will notify you as soon as reasonably practical thereafter.
In an
So
emergency. That's the emergency subset.
Okay. But also, it says that they may access live data after business hours if they have reasonable suspicion of a crime that's at or immediately adjacent to Park District property, and then will notify afterwards. So that's, again, not asking for permission in advance. That's telling you after the fact we've already done it. This is classic lawyering. Like, this would be a great, like, first-year law student test, because it gives you both. You can either define it as an emergency and tell us later, or you can not define it as an emergency and tell us later, neither of which protect the people. I don't understand how we think that writing it this broadly is the right way to define the system that we currently have in place now.
It's written in response to the case law on mosaic theory of the Fourth Amendment protections. And that's been around for more than a decade. Those cases aren't new. And the courts have struggled with the mosaic theory, and what they've talked about are, in terms of Fourth Amendment protections for not only these cameras, but drones and others. Emergencies are an exception for drone usage. You could put a drone up and fly one in an emergency, and it's not defined by the statute. So we're navigating the same long case law about mosaic theory, the same video use of tools by law enforcement, and that allows them to use an emergency. We wanted to put some sort of parameters around how the city uses the cameras we have. We have a sworn police force. They are also using our cameras as needed to enforce our ordinances and, in general, the law. So this is the cooperative agreement between us and our sworn police force and them. If you're suggesting that they would play games with an emergency and abuse it in that way, that is a possibility. The only alternative is to have no cameras then.
That sounds like a wonderful alternative. I think it's really important for everyone to understand that the overwhelming majority of Fourth Amendment case law is derived from exactly what I'm describing, abuses of our constitutional rights. The overwhelming majority of that case law that has been decided is because somebody's rights were violated. And simply saying, we will do our best not to violate your rights. Nothing in this agreement shall constitute a waiver of your rights. Well, that's great. No one's agreeing to waive their rights. I don't think that that's something that anyone should begin to contemplate, the waiver of their civil liberties. But if we're saying we're doing our best to comply with existing case law, that's fine. But this MOU is so broadly drawn that it does not in any way give us a recitation of the existing agreement, which is get permission, get access. It instead says get access, get permission. And that's a problem. And if anybody doesn't see that as a problem, then I'm happy to spend time outside of this meeting explaining to you why it is a problem. But the order of operations should be, in order to protect our citizens and their civil rights first, should be ask permission, get access. Not get access, tell you later, look at an audit log when you have the time, cross-check it with what we've done, make sure we did it right if we didn't sue us. That's an unreasonable scenario. The reasonable scenario is put into writing what we have now. Ask permission, get access. I don't understand why that's difficult.
Commissioner, may I ask a question?
That.
I just have a question for
Sure.
you. Just because I hear your scenarios and I just want to make sure we're on the same page or how you would like this, because we can work with whatever the will of the commission is. And this is a request. And if it's the will of this commission that they don't want to grant us this, I totally respect that. What I would kind of ask about with the permission granted, it's 1:30 in the morning and Springbrook Golf Course has a burglary in progress there.
Yep.
So now police are always chasing seconds to try to apprehend offenders of crimes.
Yep.
So if we have to ask for that permission after hours, sir, I have to either try to get a hold of Chief Schindelbeck, in which case and he's very responsive on his phone, so I don't want to portray that. But now we're chasing seconds and minutes of potentially, instead of having a camera, being able to confirm, yes, somebody has broken into Springbrook Golf Course. This is the best description we have. Oh, here's the car in the parking lot, and now it looks like they're going westbound on 83rd Street. So now that gives us the advantage of helping bring justice to the Park District as a victim of a burglary in progress. So if there's things that need to be tightened up in certain places, what I would say is a crime in progress, I would think you guys would want us to apprehend that individual as fast as possible. There is no right. That person does not have an expectation of any privacy when they're breaking into one of your facilities. So it would just be, how do we overcome that based on what you just proposed that we should call? Because what will happen is Murphy's Law will happen, and it will be at that time when it's hard to get a hold of someone and we're trying to chase this down. But again, if there is a will here not to do that, I totally respect that as well. This was a request that can for sure be denied if that's not the will of the commission, and I respect that.
I think the request as written should be denied. The request in principle, perhaps not. But the request as written is concerning, and that's the concern. And if this unlikely scenario that you described does occur, I'll give you my personal cell phone. You can call me. I'll be right there. I
appreciate that.
I rarely sleep, and when I do, it's not well, mostly because of stuff like this. I think that the way that this is written is tremendously concerning, and I would encourage everybody to go back to the drawing board and rewrite it in a way that makes more sense. And I haven't even started to talk about Peregrine and the hardware, software stuff that we could spend all night talking about, and I won't waste everybody's time, but that is its own concern unto itself, the use of that third-party data and the way that they're gonna store it, sell it, use it, disseminate it, is a concern that's separate and distinct from any police department. And we have two here that are involved in this that are exemplary, but that doesn't account for a third party that's storing this data. So as it's written, it would be a very cold day in hell before I'd vote yes on this. I appreciate you bringing it to us, though, and the willingness to go back to look at it and tighten it up and make it such that it does make sense for us.
I just had one quick question for
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
What about the current situation where you access the files afterwards? What about that in particular isn't working for the Naperville Police Department?
So it's totally fine. It's worked fine. So there's your short answer. That's worked fine. This is the whole in progress piece. If something's in progress and there's a camera near there, it just helps us better, whether it's allocate resources to a crash, looking for a missing child, a missing elderly, Alzheimer's person, just having those in the real time. Again, it would take, I can't speak to that. Your IT team has been great with interweaving the access, but there's access that has to be granted that you could probably explain better than me where it's not real time. And this would grant us that access. Again, your cameras will not be up on any screens unless there was some type of in-progress incident that would warrant it. So does that help clarify what we're looking for? Yeah.
About how many incidents a year would you estimate being relevant to accessing these cameras in real time?
Well, interior, probably, let's all knock on wood and say none, because that would mean you would have a violent incident in progress in the Park District. And I can't think of any recently that we've had there. Crashes outside the property, missing children, things. I mean, we have kids where we've helped the police department and it's usually just a lost child at the beach or something like that, but that would be a way where we could help, where if Chief Schindelbeck and his people were responding and we were looking for a certain child, we could maybe help with something like that. The other thing is they would have access to come in the room if there was some incident and work with us on that, just like our current relationship is. So hopefully that helps provide some clarity.
So how many
Oh, I didn't give you that answer.
That's okay.
And I'm a data person, so I apologize. I hate giving once a month maybe for like a crash or a missing kid or something like that. Okay. But if I'm wrong, please don't hold me. I can go back.
No,
because what I could report back at the next meeting is maybe how many incidents
That
overlap
would be
like that to
excellent,
you,
yeah.
like
That'd be
on or
great.
near Park District. There's so many of them, might be tough, but I'll try to give you a better ballpark.
That'd be
than
great.
that.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Appreciate it. I think that's all I had.
Okay, a few comments. I do have a question, but a couple comments on Commissioner Risvold's concerns. I've had some experience with these contracts. You can keep it simple, I guess, or you can make it 10,000 or 100,000 pages long and 1,000 pages about what an emergency is and all that. And I don't know if you really get to a better point doing that. I don't know. I mean, I have some experience with these contracts. I just don't know. You have to have some trust with people, and you can make it 10,000 pages long and have thousands of pages. Well, this is an emergency in all these scenarios, but I don't think you get to a better place. Another thing is, if you talk about every potential Fourth Amendment violation out there, to our counsel's point, you have to get rid of these cameras everywhere nationwide, including everybody's Ring doorbell cameras and dashboard cameras and everything, to get rid of every potential Fourth Amendment violation out there. So again, that's not realistic. In terms of the language of the MAU, I mean, if our counsel reviewed it, fine. I was a little surprised to see an identification clause in there. I guess we have to have that. I was a little surprised to see that, but if we think we need it, okay. And then, do you have a similar MOU, Chief, with any other units of government?
Yes, both North Central College and 204 have signed off on this MOU.
Okay, you do have somewhere. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Just to clarify that, I think that's important, that you do have working MOUs with other units of government.
Yes, sir.
So I think that's important. So I favor this. Could you tweak the language a little bit? I guess I don't know. I don't know if you can. But what is an emergency? I mean, I don't know. I would favor this as it is. I think you have to trust people like the police department here. So that's my opinion on it.
Thank you. Those of you that are on the phone, do you have any questions or comments?
Yeah, so I favor this as well. I think it's a good example of intergovernmental cooperation, and so I don't have any particular issues with it. I mean, I hear Commissioner Risvold's comments. I don't know if the attorneys can work together to address some of these comments. The other suggestion is, and I apologize, I don't have the document right in front of me, but what is the current term on this document?
Yeah, sorry.
It's 2 years.
So, I mean, Commissioner Risvold was suggesting that this, might go in perpetuity. So if the current term is 2 years, that would give the board and all parties the opportunity after that time frame to look at it and decide, if it's worth continuing further or not. So the fact that the 2 years is on there makes me feel a little better with it as well. So at this time, I would be inclined to support it.
Okay, sorry, since I came in a little bit late here. I was able to hear, a lot of the questions and discussion over this. Can you just confirm, are we voting on this tonight, or are we still discussing whether or not we want to vote on it or move it forward or make changes? I just want to clarify.
We're not voting tonight on this.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, so that being said, getting some more kind of questions that Commissioner Risvold has brought up. So I would be interested to see if there's any more middle ground or any other way that it can be worded to make it, to kind of, as Commissioner Risvold was saying, to make it seem, a little more tight, I guess, to what exactly would be happening and how it'd be used. So I'm okay with making those considerations before deciding.
Thank you for that. And thank you, everyone, for weighing in. Obviously, I already asked you a million questions before, so I'm not going to repeat myself. I'm just going to say very quickly, I still have concerns as well. My biggest concern really is the onus on Park District staff to review those logs, the audit logs, which is the only way that we can identify if any misuse or abuse happens, which is, as much as we all trust you, it is a huge concern right now, locally and nationally, because these cameras are being abused. I mean, just in the last 10 days, it's happened twice in DuPage County. So we can't pretend like it's never going to happen, because the data shows us that this is, I mean, it's just been happening since 2024. And I have to point out that when these misuses and abuses happen, it disproportionately affects women. So I just need to say that. Yeah, I think I don't know, moving forward, if there is an opportunity to tighten up the language, I'm obviously Attorney Price can weigh in on that, but yeah, my concerns remain.
Really quick, I just had one other question. The Section 7 confidentiality says the city acknowledges that access to security camera footage may include confidential information and then does not define what confidential information is. Can somebody tell me what is meant by that paragraph and how confidential information is defined such that it would be protected?
Yeah, I mean, the easy one I would think of is if a juvenile was committing a heinous crime, they'd be protected in a FOIA because of the status as a juvenile. That might be the easiest one, Commissioner.
So this is a situation where we have to implement the MOU and then define the term after the fact based on whatever situation occurs, as opposed to defining the term beforehand so that we know when the MOU applies.
That's exactly how FOIA works now. Personal confidential is not defined. It has to fit the particular circumstances. So we've learned through case law and after the fact and decisions by the PAC that we have to blur the faces of juveniles, for example. Those faces are confidential. That doesn't say that in the statute. That's a derivative argument that we've now taken the position on, combining a couple of different statutory principles. So the same goes for things in the documents themselves. Written signatures. It took a case to say that a wet signature is confidential. So we're battling the same thing. A grocery list of 1,000 examples. Sure enough, Murphy's Law, you'll have the 1,001st. So now it's not confidential, even though the circumstances would require that analysis. So that's what we're up against in terms of confidential. We know some of the case law about what's confidential. In other cases, it could be determined after the fact that this should be preserved as confidential.
Well, that's why the paragraph goes on to talk about court orders as may be determined by law, but here it doesn't define it. It doesn't say personal confidential information. It literally just says confidential information, then there's a parenthetical and it says, quote, confidential information. So it's like the term is defined by the term. I don't understand what the paragraph means as written. That's my problem.
Because confidential information, personal confidential information, PCI, is a subset of what is protected by law. So it's going to be a broader fact-specific inquiry. I don't know how else to write it. We're talking about doing a fact-specific inquiry. And in terms of direction, you want me to go back and talk to Mr. DeSanto about this. Is it the will of the board that it be always and in every instance permission first, then access?
Well, I can't speak for the rest of the board. What Commissioner Jack suggested, that we eliminate every camera that exists, sounds like a wonderful utopia to me, but I would love to have a more clearly defined MOU put in front of us. I'd also be curious what the feedback from 203 is, because they haven't signed theirs either. Has it been presented to them, and what was the feedback from the district there?
So the assistant superintendent has not presented it to the board yet because they have other things they're working through. So it's not high on their priority list right now. And I respect that because there's other things they're dealing with.
Is there an option to sort of table this for 30 days and explore?
Obviously.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Not that I'm making any decisions on behalf of everyone. I'm just suggesting that as a possibility.
I'm happy to take this feedback and work with your team and our team to see if we can. I've heard the feedback and I understand what the ask is. I just want to finish with this. I greatly appreciate your concern. I recently spoke. Admittedly, you can see it in front of the Will County Board, and there's nothing that a good cop hates more than a bad cop. And if one of my people were to abuse this system, they're gone, and I will work with the state's attorney's office to get them criminally charged. That is my promise to you, all your residents of this community that I'm sworn to protect. And nothing drives me more crazy than seeing these things happening. So I totally hear where you're coming from. I totally understand the concerns. It's a great responsibility put on us. I don't take that lightly. Thanks for listening. Happy to take the feedback and work on this.
Chief, really quick, I don't want anybody to walk away from this meeting, especially you, thinking that we have suggested that anybody in the Naperville Police Department is a bad cop. I want to reiterate, I believe strongly, and I know that I echo my fellow board members, it is an exemplary police department, and in large part due to your leadership, and we appreciate it, and we appreciate what you all do. Mm-hmm. I am not concerned about the police that you have or you abusing this. I am concerned about the language lending itself towards abuse in the future. when somebody who may not be you is in charge.
I appreciate that.
And so I think that if we can tighten up the language and make it such that it is a little, I don't need a 200-page document, but that it is more clearly defined so that we don't have to worry about the next guy who may not be you, and we don't have to think about it anymore, then I think we're in good shape. But as it's written, I think it's very concerning.
And I want to say thank you very, very much for genuinely for being here. Again, I know you're very busy, so we really, really appreciate your time. It's very helpful.
Thank you, Madam President.
You. All right, are we good to move on? We good? Okay. All right, moving on to 5.3, 2026 media review / 2027 budget preview.
All right, I'm going to come up here for the presentation portion. So each August, we do a mid-year presentation to give a mid-year review and then talk a little bit about the upcoming budget and some of the initiatives that we're going to be working on. So we're about 2/3 of the way through 2026. And where do we stand right now? The district's in a positive financial position. Our overall participation numbers, and we'll get into this a bit, along with our facility utilization, remain strong. Grant awards and strong partnerships, those continue to be just tremendous in helping to support new, improved park amenities that we have. We have some great partnerships, and we've received some great grants to bring back to the community, and we'll talk a bit about that. So far this year, or excuse me, as we look towards the end of the year, over 100 capital projects are projected to be completed this year. Through our parks team, planning department, trades divisions, a number of different projects maintaining what we have within the community versus 90 projects that were completed in 2025. Our district-wide goals are on track for completion by year end, including the March 17th referendum was approved by residents, and we've started that work on those initiatives within that referendum. Our 2026 to 2028 strategic plan was approved by the board earlier this year and has been implemented. CAPRA reaccreditation review was completed this past spring, and we are waiting for the formal announcement from NRPA this fall after their conference of the reaccreditation of the Naperville Park District, and we're very confident that that's going to happen. Our police department is preparing for their iLeap reaccreditation review. That's coming up this fall. Our employee engagement and opinion survey of full-time employees was completed, gathered quite a bit of feedback from staff. We'll have some summaries that we'll share with the board in the coming week as to what we heard from staff, and so we're working on meeting with different department directors right now to share those results. Our computerized maintenance management system that was implemented last year has been fully implemented this year with a number of departments, and we have a new Maintenance Matters tool that is on the homepage of our website that residents are able to report any maintenance concerns or issues that they see when they're out in the parks. And we continue to work on our indoor recreation space, the needs assessment, implementing those recommendations, as well as we just celebrated, very hard to believe, the 10th year anniversary of the Fort Hill Activity Center. Actually, this past weekend had a great celebration. Our staff did a very nice job putting an event together and had a lot of residents come out and enjoy the facility. As we look at our capital projects for this year, some of the highlights include there's $13.9 million that was budgeted that's being reinvested into the community this year with various park improvements and additions. A couple of larger ones being Commissioners Park. We had a sports field lighting renovation that took place there with LED lighting being placed on athletic field light poles. And then the photo that you see on this slide is of the Ron Ory Community Garden plots, the permeable paver parking lot, and as well as the raised garden beds that were added to the garden plots. We've also had a number of playground renovations this year. Each year, there's quite a few playground renovations that take place. We've been able to celebrate a number of those, and we will have additional playground renovations slated for next year. A quick update on our Connecting Communities projects. Those are the projects that were included in the referendum approved by voters in the spring. So far, for the Community Activity Center, we have awarded contracts for the architectural, construction management, building commissioning, and geotechnical services. We've conducted soil borings at the site and preparing that geotechnical report for the construction of the facility, as well as we're working with the team to refine the site plan and the preliminary architectural design. The Community Activity Center, some of the next steps include this fall, we will be reaching out to the community again and gathering input on some of the elements within the facility, being the indoor playground and some of the equipment that will be included in there. We want to gather some resident feedback on what to include there, as well as with the aquatics area and the activity pool. Again, some of the play structures and play elements that could be part of that pool. We're going to prepare and submit the permit documents, release bids for trades packages as part of next steps, present and award construction contracts. Those will be presented to the board at upcoming meetings, likely in early 2027. And then we'll break ground and commence construction activities in 2027 with the opening of the Community Activity Center scheduled for 2029. With the Heritage Woods, the two expansion properties at Heritage Woods, we closed on that property in June. We've started demolition of some of the old structures that are on the site and the site restoration. Our next steps there will be to implement improvements such as adding nature trails, site furnishings, a native prairie and woodland restoration, and some shoreline stabilization. The intent is that expansion property will open for community use in 2027. And then similar with Walnut Ridge Park, the expansion property there, that property was also closed on in June, and we've begun plans for removing some of the dead wood and doing some restoration projects there, including removal of some of the invasive plant material that's there. And next steps also will be development of nature trails and restoring that woodland with the intent to open that expansion property in 2027 as well. I had mentioned before, grants and partnerships play a huge role in being able to support the community in providing various parks and amenities. We've received DCEO grants in recent years from Senators Ellman, Representative Yang Rohr, and Representative Stava. 1.4 million in DCEO grants were awarded in 2025 for new playgrounds. Some of those openings were celebrated actually this year in 2026. We received over $750,000 through the Illinois EPA for the permeable paver parking lot project at the garden plots. And then in addition to that, also supporting that project was a $60,000 DuPage Water Quality Improvement Program grant from DuPage County. So that project was completed and open to the community in 2026. Earlier this year, we learned that we're the recipient of a $600,000 OSLAD grant through the IDNR, and that's going to help with improvements at Nike Sports Complex. We also received a very generous donation from Naperville Little League Baseball for converting 2 of the ball fields of the 3 at Nike Sports Complex to the synthetic turf infield. So we have started that project. We're actually going to be converting all 3 of those infields to synthetic turf at Nike. And then we've also learned that the district was awarded $450,000 in DCEO grants this year for future park improvements, and we're working on some ideas associated with where that funding will be applied. As we look at the first half of the year for our key facility revenue and participation, it's been a challenging year with Centennial Beach, really with the weather that we have experienced during the course of the summer. And a little bit later, we've got some slides that are dedicated to some of the impacts there. But with the various storms, high heat, the air quality, so on and so forth, Centennial Beach right now, paid admissions are down about 11% compared to 2025. Overall revenue through July is down about 4.5% as compared to last year and compared to about budget. Membership sales are 7% lower than 2025, and our grill sales are down 3.5%. So Centennial Beach, being that weather related facility, very much dependent upon the weather, has seen some of those significant impacts. Fort Hill Fitness, on the other hand, January through July, our fitness membership revenue is up 2% versus 25. Fitness usage is up, as well as track, group exercise, and childcare use, all up this year at Fort Hill Activity Center. And golf, as we look at January through July, total rounds being up 4.7% versus 2025, a good spring as well as start to the summer season. Green fee revenues are up 4% versus last year. Our Springbrook range revenues are down about 17%. Our rounds have stayed really stable at Springbrook, but we believe that a major contributor to that is the closure of Book Road for the DuPage Water Commission project that's taking place. And we have golfers that they will make the effort and get to Springbrook to play the round of golf, but it's not convenient to get there if you're just going to hit balls. On the other hand, our Naperville range revenues are up 40%. So we believe some of that traffic has gone over to Naperville, but then in addition to that, some of the work with that Sam and her team have done, as well as Kevin and his team with doing some of the marketing around the driving range there. So a nice increase at Naperville. And then both concession sales up 8.5% ahead of budget through July, and our overall revenues are about 7% ahead of budget. With our recreation programs, overall participation is 1.7% below 2025. Our revenue at this point in time is still tracking about 1% ahead of budget, though. So we're still in a good place as far as program participation is concerned. A couple of highlights, personal training. We've had over 4,000 sessions of personal training this year so far. That's a 47% increase over 2025. So great work by the fitness staff, bringing on and adding staff to accommodate the interest in personal training. We're seeing that the strength conditioning being tied to longevity, that more and more people are looking for that type of experience. Private swim lessons, similar to the Centennial Beach, we're down about 30 participants there, so a little bit fewer in that area. And our golf private lessons, again, we're about a 9% decrease from 2025. We have had some turnover changes in some of our instructors, and so just with some of those changes, we've seen a bit of a different number as far as golf private lessons. Our Premier Soccer League, we're up about 1.6%. Youth basketball was down about 1.6%, but we still had a pretty large wait list with the youth basketball program, with 160 waitlisted in the winter. Our gymnastics program remains strong with over 2,700 participants so far, with 400 on the wait list. We still we do as much as we can to get as many kids into those programs as possible, but still very, very popular program, and we're not able to accommodate all at this time. NFL flag football, also huge increases there. 52 teams this year, 512 players. That's a 32% increase over 2025, which is record participation. Last year was record participation in that program as well. Summer day camps, we've seen about a 6.6% decrease from 2025. Major factor there is that summer school for District 203, in which we partner with and we do a camp after their summer school, changed the structure of summer school this year. It was held at one school and it was one session versus being at two schools in the past and 2 sessions. So we've seen a decrease in the number of registrations associated with that. Preschool is pretty well in line with last year. And then pottery, 390 participants. That's a 29% increase. We've seen a nice influx with our pottery program, especially after the renovations completed at Studio One in 2025. We put the comparison up there, that 29% increase from 2024, because that was the last full year when the facility was open. I mentioned before about the challenges this year, and really it's been the managing of the severe weather impacts, the high heat that we've had at times, as well as the air quality. What that has done with the amount of storm cleanup that we've had during the course of this summer, we've had to reallocate a number of resources, both labor as well as financial resources, to help with that storm cleanup. Year to date, we've spent over $121,000 just on storm cleanup from the storms that we've experienced this summer. The vast majority of that is related to cleanup of trees, downed limbs, downed trees in multiple parks throughout the community. We've had a number of outdoor facility closures. For comparison, Centennial Beach, we've had 5 full days of closure in 26 versus 9 partial days, and that's through the month of July. And then that's compared to 3 full days of closure in 2025 and 12 partial days. We know that those numbers are actually higher than that when we look at the week that we had in August, where we had a tremendous amount of rain and we had to close the facility a number of days. Paddleboat quarry rentals, 4 days of full closure this year and 12 partial days versus 7 partial days in 25. And then for the golf course, cart restrictions, and just for the months of June and July, those 2 months, We had 14 days of cart restrictions where we could not allow carts out because the turf was just too wet, versus 8 days in 2025, so almost double the number of days. Other challenges being the heat and the air quality. So we've had various days where we had to move outdoor positions to take additional breaks or transition to indoor responsibilities or indoor work. It resulted in outdoor facility closures. I mentioned the beach, paddle boats, as well as a number of outdoor camps that had to either relocate indoors or in some cases that they were canceled. We had to cancel the fireworks on July 4th. We did reschedule those. Great show earlier this month, and so we were able to do that. The Illinois Department of Natural Resources actually implemented a restricted boating area along the DuPage River, closing the river to boating because of some of the high water that was experienced this summer. And one example of some of the financial impact, T-ball coach pitch, we had so many various weather cancellations that it just got to a point where we could not make up all of the games because of storms, air quality, et cetera. So we actually had to issue about $9,600 in refunds to program participants because we could not get those makeups in. As we look ahead to 2027, some of the anticipated challenges as we're putting the budget together are some of the, just with the volatile geopolitical environment, some of the uncertainties around tariffs, fuel costs, commodity and supply costs, as well as some of the supply chain delays that we're seeing. Within the technology area, we're seeing some significant price spikes, and Stephen, in working with some of our vendors, what we used to receive as far as quotes for equipment that might be good for 30 days. Now they're either doing the quote might be good for 7 days or 14 days because those prices are fluctuating so much. Overall increased labor and contractual service costs as those various costs for all those supplies and other commodities increase. Those are getting passed along from contractors also to the Park District. And then we spoke in the Finance Committee before this meeting about health insurance costs, and we're seeing some of those costs for next year that are being built into the budget. As we look ahead to 2027 and some of those larger district-wide goals that we'll be considering, one will be breaking ground on the Community Activity Center and starting that construction, completing the restoration of the 2 expansion properties and opening those to the public, executing the goals of the strategic plan that was approved earlier this year. We're going to be completing an evaluation of our program registration software system and recommend a platform for future use with the district. We have been with the current registration software since 2016, and so it's time to go through a full evaluation and just take a look at what other software products are out there and how might they be used at the Park District. So we will report back to the board on our findings and go from there. Our planning department will update the district's Trails Master Plan next year. The finance department is going to move to a new financial software platform, so that's a major initiative. The marketing team will lead improvements to the Park District's website, napervilleparks.org. And then we'll continue to develop the organizational succession planning as we look at just upcoming future retirements of various positions and preparing for being able to fill those positions, as well as just continuing the overall retention initiative that we have at the district. And then lastly, completing room renovations and relocating the Sportsman's Park WDSRA Rec and Roll program from the clubhouse over to the Rubin Center so that they have a better experience at that location. We're currently working with WDSRA staff on what that looks like, and that will also then utilize a space at the RCC where we know based upon the indoor recreation space needs assessment, we can increase the utilization there. As we look at the budget timeline, coming up this fall, on October 30th, the budget will be distributed to the board and to the leadership team, and then it'll be placed on public display beginning on November 2nd. At the November 12th meeting, board meeting, we will have a budget presentation as well as a tax levy resolution that will be on the agenda for approval. And then on December 10th, the 2027 budget and appropriation ordinance will be on the agenda for board approval. And with that, are there any questions?
One real quick. Do we have a timeline on the WDSRA renovations that we might need to do?
Yeah, the renovation. So we're working right now. Eric and his team are working with our recreation staff as well as WDSRA on some of the design that will be associated with that. We're going to look to begin that project, I believe, April, May, and then have that occur over the course of the first few summer months with the intent to have them move in about mid-year or by the fall. By this time next year, yeah, we're going to look to have them in that space. Yeah.
Any questions on the phone?
Brad, with regard to your report about the cleaning up of tree limbs and that type of thing after storms, and the labor associated with it and the time associated with it, how much of that is, if any, is recovered by insurance versus what we just have to eat as far as cost?
I don't have the exact percentage. The vast majority of that cost is the responsibility of the district, and it's not covered under an insurance claim. Most of the tree damage that took place out in the parks did not result in something that could be part of a claim.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to 5.4, district-wide fence improvements.
Good evening. A contract for this project is planned to be presented to the Park Board for approval at a meeting in September. The scope of work includes fence improvements at Cloud Creek Greenway, Commissioners Park, and DuPage River Sports Complex. At Cloud Creek Greenway, existing split rail fence needs to be replaced with 4-foot tall vinyl coated chain link fence on both sides of Chokeberry Drive to serve as a barrier near the existing drainage culvert. At Commissioners Park, chain link fence fabric needs to be replaced on the existing freestanding ball field backstop due to extensive weathering. And at DuPage River Sports Complex, a dilapidated 4-foot tall vinyl coated chain link fence will be replaced to enhance safety near an existing retaining wall. A total of $45,000 is allocated in the 2026 capital budget for fence improvements. Pending contract approval, work is expected to begin in fall. So any questions on that?
Yeah, I got a lot of fire.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to 5.5, professional design services for bunker renovations at Naperville.
Good evening. In your August 21st weekly packet, staff included a memo detailing professional services requested for future bunker renovations at Naperville Golf Course. Staff are expecting to provide for the board's consideration at a future park board meeting a contract with Martin Design Partnership for these professional services. The scope of professional services includes completion of design development, construction documents, bid phase services, and construction observation for the renovation of the bunkers at Naperbrook Golf Course. The bunkers at Naperbrook are the original design from 1991 and are overdue for renovations to improve conditions, reduce maintenance cost, and improve overall course playability. The construction schedule for the bunker renovation work will be determined later in the year. The fee for this scope of work is not to exceed an amount of $63,250. And is based on and within professional services contracts negotiated earlier with this firm for similar projects. Funding for these services will come from funds allotted in the 2026 golf capital budget and funds proposed in the 2027 golf capital budget.
Great. Any questions? Okay. Thank you very much. All right, 5.6, Fort Hill AV upgrades.
Good evening. Included in the August 21st weekly packet was a memo detailing the need for AV upgrades in the multipurpose rooms here at the Fort Hill Activity Center. The current equipment here in these rooms is now over 10 years old, and certain components are no longer readily available for procurement as repairs are needed, and just in general, the wear from 10 years of use. This work is planned for completion in 2026, funded within the IT capital budget. We're currently reviewing upgrade proposals, examining scope, changes in the technology, overall costs, and timeline for completion, with the intent to bring a proposal to the board for approval at an upcoming meeting.
All right, got it. Thank you. 5.7, fleet equipment purchase.
Good evening. Staff anticipate presenting two pieces of equipment to the board for approval at the September 10th meeting. The first item is a 2026 Toro Workman utility vehicle for use in our North Parks. The new Workman would replace a 2011 purchase, which has reached the end of its serviceable lifespan. The other item we will be seeking approval to purchase is our towable air compressor. Our current compressor was purchased in 2007 and is used to perform the district's irrigation system winterization, as well as provide power for pneumatic equipment, including jackhammers and other construction tools. Due to the age and cost of repair for both pieces of equipment, fleet staff have determined that neither unit is worth continued investment. The new equipment would be purchased through contracts awarded via purchasing networks, with delivery expected this fall. Funds remain available for the purchase of both items, and details will be provided for each at the next board meeting.
Sounds great. Thank you. And then finally, 5.8, 2027 contract mowing bid.
2026 represented the final of the district's renewable option years with our current mowing provider. Staff posted an advertisement for bid in late July for mowing services in 2027, with options to extend the annual contracts for 2028 and 2029. As in previous instances, the project manual separated the district into 3 separate mowing regions, north, central, and south, and allowed vendors to provide pricing on 1, 2, or all 3 of the regions. 9 proposals were submitted by contractors at the July 28th bid opening. Staff are currently reviewing paperwork for required documentation and completing reference checks. We anticipate having a recommendation for approval at the September 10th meeting, and more information on that will be provided in an upcoming weekly packet.
Great. Thank you. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Our next regular meeting of the Board of Park Commissioners is scheduled for September 10th, 2026 at 7 p.m. here at Fort Hill.
Move to adjourn the August 27th, 2026 regular meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much, everyone.